All right, so let's jump right into a situation that, on the surface, makes zero sense. You've got weeks of intense military action against Iran, and then, boom, a ceasefire offer. It seems like a total 180, right? Well, the source material we're looking at today asks a pretty simple but huge question. Why on earth would you offer peace right after a massive bombing campaign?
Okay, let's really dig in here. According to the analysis we're breaking down, this apparent contradiction, it's not a sign of weakness, it's not some last-minute change of heart, no. The source argues it's the key, the absolute key to unlocking a much deeper, multi-layered strategy. It's a move that was designed to be so unexpected that pretty much nobody saw it coming, least of all the Iranian regime itself.
So, step one in understanding this whole thing is to really appreciate just how puzzling this ceasefire was. The source is pretty clear. This wasn't an olive branch. It was a shock tactic, designed to throw Iran's leadership completely off balance, and into a corner they had no idea how to get out of.
So how do you set a trap like that? Well, to get the ceasefire, you first have to look at what happened right before it. The source we're examining argues that those weeks of bombing, they weren't random at all. They were like a surgeon's scalpel, a hyper-targeted campaign with a very, very specific list. And this is where the whole theory really starts to click into place. The source says, look, if you're only looking at what got blown up, you're missing the point. You're actually missing the most important part of the story. Because the real strategy wasn't about who was hit, it was about who was deliberately spared. Yeah, you heard that right. The source claims the most critical part of the whole operation was deciding which powerful groups inside Iran to leave completely untouched. The big question is, who?
Okay, so take a look at this because this breakdown is fascinating. On the one side, you've got the targeted list. We're talking about the IRGC, Iran's most extreme military wing, the nuclear program, the supreme leader's inner circle, basically what the source calls the fanatical zealots. But then, look at who was spared. The Artesh, that's Iran's regular army, and the Guardian Council. The theory here is that these less radical factions were kept in the game for a reason.
And here's the punchline to that whole setup. You've taken out the hardliners, you've left the more moderate groups standing, and then you offer a ceasefire. According to this theory, the ceasefire wasn't about making peace at all. It was a weapon. It was designed to create chaos from the inside out.
So did it work? Well, it looks like it started to pay off almost instantly. The source points to reports like this one, saying that the second the idea of a ceasefire hit the table, boom, severe disagreement erupted among senior officials. The internal rivalries just started to boil over.
And this wasn't just some polite debate in a back room. Oh no. The conflict got physical fast. The source points to actual footage of IRGC supporters, the hardliners, physically attacking the home of Iran's foreign minister, the guy who was supposed to lead the talks. They were chucking rocks at his house, furious at the very idea of negotiating.
So here's how the trap was sprung, step by step. 1. The ceasefire forces all these rival factions into the same room. 2. They suddenly have to figure out, who's actually in charge here? 3. They have to agree on one single path forward. Do we talk or do we fight? And according to the source, being forced to answer those questions is what started, and I quote, tearing the regime apart. So while Iran is descending into this internal chaos, what's happening on the American side? Well, the source says that U.S. used this exact moment for a major strategic advantage, something former President Trump called an American reset. Yeah, he called it the world's most powerful reset. That's a pretty bold statement, right? So what exactly is this reset? Well, it's basically a two-pronged approach, one part military, one part economic.
First up, the military side. Think of the ceasefire as hitting a pause button that only works for one side. While Iran's leadership is at each other's throats, the U.S. is apparently using that time to rearm and resupply its forces in the area, getting ready for whatever comes next. As the source quotes Trump, "We are resetting, they are not." Okay, so that's the military piece. Now for the economic reset. How do you make sure Iran can't resupply while you are? Simple. You issue a massive threat. Any country that even thinks about sending weapons to Iran gets hit with huge, immediate tariffs on everything they sell to the U.S. And let me be clear, we are not talking about a slap on the wrist here. We're talking about a 50% tariff. I mean, that's absolutely crippling. The thinking, according to the source, is that this threat is aimed right at countries like Russia and China, basically making it economic suicide for them to even consider rearming Iran. So let's put it all together.
You've got the surgical strikes, the engineered internal chaos, and the American reset. All of it, according to this theory, is building towards one thing: a checkmate, a position of total leverage, with the Strait of Hormuz right at the center of the board.
And this is the end game that the source lays out. You create a situation where the Iranian regime is totally fractured internally. They can't even agree who's in charge, let alone what to do. At the same exact time, they're cut off from military supplies, just as their opponent is getting stronger. What's the result? A government with literally no choice but to negotiate, and to do it on American terms.
The source points to this quote to really hammer home that power dynamic. The Iranians don't seem to realize they have no cards. It's a message of complete and total dominance. The claim is that all their strategic leverage is just gone.
And it gets even more stark than that. This final quote, highlighted by the source, is just incredibly blunt. The only reason they are alive today is to negotiate. I mean, wow. It basically frames their very survival as being conditional. It's the ultimate power play, the final expression of the leverage this whole strategy was apparently designed to create.
So, what are we to make of all this? Is it a masterclass in strategy, a brilliant way to force a hostile regime's hand, like the source argues, or is it just a massive, high-stakes gamble that could blow up in everyone's face? The theory is all there, but the final outcome? Well, that part of the story is still being written.